What's up guys, Tearless here. I am back inside Temple of the Five Dawns, bringing you the second part of the two-part video dealing with the class overview for Windwalker monks. In this video we will be looking at the talent for a Windwalker monk, looking at the PvE talents and the PvP talents. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Looking at the PvE talents first, I will say that many of the PvE talents are very similar to how it is on live. This is one of the least changed talent trees, I think, of all the talent trees out there. So do not expect too much change in the talents for Windwalker monks. The major change that's come to Windwalker monks is, as I mentioned in the last video, about how they have switched off of brews and are more combo oriented in terms of their playstyle. So, looking at the 15 tier, we have Chi Burst. It functions exactly as it does on live. Nothing has changed there. The same goes for Chi Wave. Both of these abilities are exactly as they are on live. The only difference is that instead of the 30 tier, these are now in the 15 tier. The other talent that will be replacing Zen Sphere is going to be Eye of the Tiger, and that is that Tiger Palm also applies Eye of the Tiger, dealing 29,000 nature damage to the enemy, and another 29,000 healing to the monk over 8 seconds. So it's another type of heal, just like Burst and Wave, the Chi brothers there, that you'll be able to use. Remember that Tiger Palm is now like Jab. It is your energy expender to create Chi. So you kind of got some healing there in addition to some extra damage as well. On the 30 tier, we have Chi Torpedo. It has moved all the way from the 90 tier down to the 30 tier, but none of it is the same, except for the fact that they basically moved it here to retain the very nice spell visual that comes from Chi Torpedo. It actually is momentum. Torpedoes you forward a long distance, increasing your movement speed by 30% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. Now, so all of the damage that was a part of it is now gone. Basically, it is momentum. It just looks nice. It's got the nice visual of Chi Torpedo added into it. Tiger's Lust is the same, increases a friendly target's movement speed by 70% for 6 seconds and removes all roots and snares. This is exactly how it is on live. They kind of give a little bit more clarification that you can use it on targets that are not yourself. You can use it on friendly targets, otherwise it's the same. So just tooltip wording there. Celerity is still the same as well, reduces the cooldown of roll by 5 seconds and increases its maximum number of charges by 1. So technically, even though Chi Torpedo has a name change, this tier is exactly the same, it's just now in the 30 tier. Another tier, almost close to the same, Power Strikes. Every 15 seconds, your Tiger Palm generates 1 additional Chi. This is a little bit different from the old 45 version. It was every 15 seconds, your Jab, Spinning Crane, Kick, or Expel Harm would do it. All 3 of those have been removed, so it's just Tiger Palm now. Ascension still works exactly the same as it does on live. Nothing has changed there. And then a new one here, or you could say old, is Energy Elixir. The old it stays true to what Energy Brew was, which has been removed from Windwalker monks, and now you have Energy Elixir, which is you chug an Energy Elixir, refilling all of your energy and chi. This is on a 1-minute cooldown, so little bit different there, but it's still pretty true to the way it was. Energizing Brew was. Level 60 tier, still very much the same. Both Ring of Peace and Leg Sweep are exactly as they were before. Dizzying Kicks is a little bit different. It replaces Charging Ox Wave, but it may see more use, and I think that's why it's been put in there. And that's because Blackout Kick also reduces the target's movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. Now the reason why I think this may see more use, specifically in PvP, is because if you notice from the last video, Blackout Kick has had its chi cost reduced down to 1. So you're going to be able to use Blackout Kick a lot more, and a 70% reduction is brutal to a target. And having the 70% reduction will be very useful in being able to lock down certain targets. One thing that I've noticed, and you'll start to notice as we look throughout this tree and then into the PvP tree, while the monks have lost some of their escapability with something like Nimble Brew and so forth. They have gained with sticking power. It's going to be very hard to get away from a monk. In the 75 tier, we have all three of the same abilities. However, they have all been buffed, nerfed. Diffuse Magic and Dampen Harm getting nerfed, was Healing Elixir getting buffed. Healing Elixir now gives you 2 charges. As you can see down here, I have 2 charges in the middle of my bar on the left-hand side. I have 2 charges of Healing Elixir, and you still drink. You heal for 15% of your maximum health. It will automatically trigger if you go below 35% of your health. The main thing, though, is that you have 2 charges, and you actually have the ability to use it whenever you want now. That's something you didn't have before. It used to be just if you drop below 35%. Now you can use it, if you're ahead. And then the 35% will only proc if there is a charge there. So that's one thing that you should kind of take note of. One thing that is kind of sucks about it, though, is that even though you have 2 charges, it's no longer an 18-second cooldown. It's a 30-second cooldown, so I guess it ends up being 15 seconds, I guess you could say. So you could say it's a 3-second reduction in cooldown, but you have 2 charges, and each one of those charges requires 30 seconds. Diffuse Magic has been nerfed. Both of these have had their cooldowns nerfed. It is now 2 minutes instead of 1.5 seconds. So both Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic have had that nerfed. And then at the same time, both have had their abilities nerfed. So with Diffuse Magic, it no longer reduces by 90%, it only reduces by 60%, so that's a pretty hefty nerf on that ability. And then with Dampen Harm, it no longer reduces damage you take by 50%, it's now 30% for the next 3 attacks that damage you for 15% or more of your health. So, pretty hefty nerf on both of those, and that's, I guess, to bring it in line with healing, the new Healing Elixir, to give you more of an option there, and bring the talent up to speed. In the 90 tier, we have Rushing Jade Wind, very familiar for most people, or should be, I should say. However, it no longer replaces Spinning Crane Kick, which is kind of the main change here, is that it no longer it no longer replaces Spinning Crane Kick, and that's kind of a big deal. And its spell visual has been not updated, but it's enhanced. You're going to see here as I use it, it's really flashy now. They've increased the particle effects of it. So, if you may have not noticed, I was testing this on live servers versus here. The particle effect has gotten larger and more pronounced. So, and now that it's only 1 chi, you can now use it a lot. And then Spinning Crane Kick at the same time is not gone, so you can use this and Spinning Crane Kick at the same time, so they're both there. You still have Invoke Zuin, the White Tiger, works exactly and functions exactly the way it is on live. And then lastly, you have Hit Combo, which each successive attack that triggers combo strikes in a row grants 1% increased damage, stacking up to 10 times. Now, if you've forgotten already from the first video, I explained that the old mastery is gone, and the new mastery is this combo strikes. And this is basically playing off of it. It is playing into that fantasy of having, being the combo strike player. So, as you can see, I'm going to use different abilities. And as I use different abilities, in the top right hand corner, you can see this buff stacking. It's now at 5 stacks. Damage increased by 5%. In the level 100 tier, we have only one talent that is familiar, and that is Serenity. Serenity has been buffed a little bit, but at the same time it's been nerfed. There's kind of a push and pull as to how Serenity has changed. Its cooldown is still the same. However, the biggest thing is that Serenity now replaces Storm, Earth, and Fire. That may be something people may not want, especially with how Storm, Earth, and Fire has changed. It's a little bit better now. People may not want that type of to lose that ability. However, in compensation, you deal 40% increased damage and healing. So, and you also have your chi consumers on a 50% reduced cooldown. So they still have the part where all of your chi consumption is it's always refilled. Like, you never lose any chi. However, at the same time, you also get 50% reduced cooldown and 40% increased damage, and that's to compensate for the fact that it's replacing Storm, Earth, and Fire. So you kind of have to make a decision there, and I'll leave that to the Windwalker Monk elite players to be able to figure out how good of a DPS increase that will be. Over here on the left-hand side, we have Chi Orbit. I'm going to go ahead and activate this here, and basically, it works. It functions as a, I think, a better lightning shield. Every 5 seconds, an orb of energy forms and rotates around you until it impacts the enemy, dealing 59,000 damage to all nearby enemies, maximum of 4 orbs. So I'm at 3 right now. There's the 4th one, and these just roll around me constantly until I run in here, and it deals damage. You don't even have to attack anything. It will just hit based on when it comes into contact with a player. I don't know how popular this will be. Normally, PvPers like to have more control over their target. However, in a PvE situation, this is just passive damage that's going to constantly be hitting your opponent or the raid boss that you're facing, and you don't have to worry about it. The last ability in the PvE talent tree is going to be Whirling Dragon Punch. And my orbs will dissipate here now that I no longer have the ability, I think. Or maybe they'll just stick on me. Oh, they're going to stick on me until I actually get rid of them. So there we go. Now they won't generate anymore. So I have Whirling Dragon Punch. Performs a devastating whirling upward strike, dealing 215,000 damage to all nearby enemies, only usable when Fists of Fury and Rising Sun Kick are on cooldown. Now, this could be very important, because with the new Combo Strikes ability, you basically are going to want to constantly be using different abilities. And there does come a point in which you kind of run out of abilities to constantly switch off back and forth of. And you saw it right there. I almost came to a point where the only ability I had available to me was Blackout Kick. Rising Sun Kick was still not quite off of cooldown, and the energy cost of Jab had gone down far enough. So this fills that gap. I'll go ahead and use it right here as soon as, well, hang on, I need to get Rising Sun Kick now off cooldown. I'll go ahead and use it right here now. You can see I kind of do this uppercut and then a lot of damage. So it's on a 22.2 second cooldown. I don't know how popular this will be, but considering that Combo Strikes is going to be a big deal for Windwalker monks, I can see them taking this to kind of give them some leeway on being able to keep that upkeep of having those different combos, and keeping the increased damage on your mastery, and then also if you have something like hit combo, also keeping the increased damage on that as well. So that is everything for the PvE talents for a Windwalker monk. Let's go ahead and take a look at the PvP talents. Now, I will warn you, I have not gone in and I cannot test these. I cannot show you these directly, because the only way for these to activate is to actually be in PvP combat, and for that, it ends up being an uncontrolled environment, and it becomes difficult to narrate and explain things with everything going on. So, I will not be able to show you these, though I will say that most PvE talents are strictly passives that enhance your abilities. They're not necessarily, they're usually not brand new abilities, so you're not going to notice anything different. So the first tier deals with your medallion. You get an honorable medallion when you first start in PvP, and it's a 3-minute cooldown. So getting this first talent, Gladiator's medallion, reduces that cooldown to 2 minutes, and it replaces the honorable medallion. The other choice you have to that is adaptation. It's a passive. All loss of control of effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more will activate your honorable medallion spell, but causes it to only incur a 60-second cooldown. I actually like this. Basically, it gives you a, it's an automatic trinket, but it only is at the cost of a 60-second cooldown. However, if you personally activate your honorable medallion, then it will trigger the 3-minute cooldown, and adaptation will not be able to come up for another 3 minutes. The third option here is Relentless, and it will replace your honorable medallion. That's why I think it will probably not be used except maybe by tanks, and it causes the duration of incoming crowd control effects to be reduced by 25%. That is kind of your talent tier dealing with medallions. On the second tier, this is common across all melee classes, and I think this is a way for Blizzard to kind of make sure that it can balance just melee as a whole in PvP. They'll able to look at this one tier and be like, okay, this is what we need to change for melee as a whole. You know, ranged has their own set as well, so I'm expecting it to this will be where they go to, if they need to balance, you know, an entire range of classes at once. So at the beginning of this tier we have hardiness, well above 80% health, you take 20% less damage. You have reinforced armor, health increased by 10%, and then you have sparring. Physical melee attacks have a 20% chance to be blunted, dealing 50% reduced damage. Now, before I go any further into looking at the rest of the talent trees, do know that how you gain these talents is you start at level 1, PvP level 1, this is how the new PvP system works, and you will level up as you do in like Call of Duty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 50, and then at 50 you can prestige and start over. And as you're leveling up, you'll start like with Gladiator's Medallion, that'll be level 1, and then at level 4 or so, I'm not quite sure of the numbers, you'll get Hardiness, and then like 9 you'll get Yulon's Gift, and it'll keep going all the way down, and then it'll start up into the second row and go all the way down, and then the third row and go all the way down. And that's how you gain these abilities. And once you're at level 50, you'll have access to every single one of them. And if you choose to prestige, you'll start over back at level 1, and you'll have to build your way back up again. So that people may just want to get to 50 and then call it a day. Some people will want to be the tryhards that, you know, get all the way to I think 15 is the highest prestige level. They'll want to grind it all out and get all the special favors you get from it. Anyways, going back to the talent tree, looking at the third tier, we now have Yulon's Gift. Using G-Torpedo or Flying Serpent Kick will dispel all snares affecting you when used. This is definitely useful to have in PvP. There's Eminence. Reduces the cooldown of your Transcendence transfer by 5 seconds. Basically, this puts Transcendence transfer back to where it is now on live. It was increased by 5 seconds. This brings it back down to 20 seconds from 25 seconds. The last one here is Fast Feet. You move 15% faster for 3 seconds after being attacked. I like this one. I don't know if I'll like it more than Yulon's Gift, but I do like this one. However, it's going to be very useful against something like someone attacking you from afar. It allows you to close the gap quicker, especially if your gap closers are, you know, on cooldown. However, Monk, as you'll see as we continue throughout this tree, will have no trouble gap closing whatsoever. So, just something to think about. In the fourth tier, we have Whirling Kicks. It is a passive. Your Spinning Crane Kick increases your movement speed by up to 100%, that's important, and heals you for 10% of your maximum health over 5 seconds. The number of targets struck by Spinning Crane Kick increases this effect. When it says speed up to 100%, I'm assuming that means that it could be lower, and then depending on how many enemies you strike, it can be higher, as high as 100% increased movement speed. Your second ability here is Fortifying Elixir, very much like Fortifying Brew. And it stays very true to how Fortifying Brew is. They're bringing it back as a talent. 1.5 minute cooldown turns your skin to stone, increasing your current and maximum health by 20%, and reducing damage taken by 20%. They don't actually on this explain how long it lasts, so I'm not quite sure the length of it, but my guess is they will fix that tooltip in time. The third ability is Zen Meditation, another ability that you used to have, and it reduces all damage taken by 90% for 4 seconds, 3-minute cooldown. I believe that is very close, if not exactly the way it is on live, or was at one point. Tiger Style. Looking at this fifth tier, we have Tiger Style. The agile essence of Zuin infuses your Flying Serpent Kick, allowing you to control the winds during flight. This is kind of a recurring theme in Windwalker monk talents. They're kind of not very clear on what these abilities can do, but I have not been able to test this in PvP, but I believe this allows you to actually control the direction of your Flying Serpent Kick. When you use Flying Serpent Kick, you generally can only go the direction that you originally start out of, and you cannot move it. This will change that and allow you to actually move in the middle of your Flying Serpent Kick, which could be very potent. However, there are other great ones in this tier. Flying Serpent Kick now has an additional charge. I don't know how popular this will be, because a lot of times I see monks using Flying Serpent Kick a lot of times as an escape mechanism rather than a gap closer. So having an extra one, I don't know, will give them a gap closer, and then at the same time they can run away if they find themselves completely obliterated. I don't know how popular this will be, because you do have other forms of gap closing, and I don't know if it'll be the most popular talent. I definitely like Tiger Style over this. The last one here is Ride the Wind. Flying Serpent Kick forms a path of wind in its wake, causing all allies who stand in it to have a 30% increased movement speed and to be immune to movement slowing effects. This is huge, and I expect any Windwalker monk in rated battlegrounds to be taking this, because this has huge team potential. If anyone tries to snare your flag carrier, you name it, Ride the Wind is going to be immensely helpful, and I see monks taking this in rated battlegrounds without question. The only other one that I can see people taking is probably this Tiger Style, just because it gives you a little bit more control over it, or it may be Double Dragon. I could be wrong, and this Double Dragon will be much more useful, but Ride the Wind I believe will for sure be the choice inside a rated battleground setting, whereas Tiger Star might be more useful in something like an arena where you can actually curve around tight corners and so forth, and then it'll become more useful. In your last tier, we have, it's like the gap closing tier, and some really potent abilities that I really like. First is Rushing Tiger Palm. Tiger Palm now has a 10-yard range and reduces the target's movement speed by 25% for 2 seconds. When used, you instantly dash to the target. This gives you massive sticking power for a monk. And just imagine this being paired with the ability in the main tree with dizzying kicks to give a 70% slow on the target. I think that will be huge. You will be able to have massive sticking power to targets as a Windwalker monk, and it'll be very frustrating. Let's move over here to Spitting Fire Blossom. This used to be an ability. It was taken away in Warlords of Draenor, I believe, and now it is back. Hopefully we see people using it. It deals 29,000 damage to your target. If Spitting Fire Blossom is cast on a target outside melee range, the damage is increased by 50%, and you root the target for 1.5 seconds. There's no indication here that this is a skill shot as it used to be. Otherwise, I would see something like, if Spitting Fire Blossom hits a target, instead it's saying is cast on a target, which leads me to believe that Spitting Fire Blossom no longer is a skill shot. Instead, you cast it on a target, it will deal damage, and then if it's outside melee range, it will root them and deal increased damage. So this is something that you can now use. You can choose between this and Rushing Tiger Palm for your actual gap closer. The last ability here is Heavy-Handed Strikes, and this is incredibly strong, and I honestly think it's so strong that it might end up being nerfed, especially in something like a raid setting. But basically, Fists of Fury have a 5-yard increased range, and targets hit by Fists of Fury are also stunned by 4 seconds. So, mentioned in the last video, Fists of Fury lost its stun, but you're able to use it while moving. If you take this talent, you regain your stun while not losing your ability to now move, to be mobile. I mean, just imagine if I am, attacking a target, I'm able to move around and stun targets in succession with this Fists of Fury. It's going to be incredibly potent, and it's something that I do believe that several people in rated battlegrounds will be taking a good look at to see if they want to take this talent. So that is everything for Windwalker monks and the talents they have. They've kind of been redesigned, going away from the bruise, instead going to this combo, which I believe was always Windwalker monk's original intent. were to be these type of combo monks. And so, while they may have lost maybe a little bit of gap closing and their ability to be have difficulty, like with Nimble Brew, have difficulty locking down a monk, they have made up with that in the fact that they have immense ability to gap close and have great sticking power to targets, should you choose to talent into it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Apologize, it was a little bit long considering that this talent tree really didn't change too much. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next video, which I believe is Balanced Druids. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Tearless out.